Hello and welcome back to Food Rebels. This is the podcast that brings you brands, chef, live on air tastings, show dedicated to the more rebellious side of the food world. I'm AJ Sharp, I'm the show host, taste expert, food writer, great taste judge, blah, 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 all of that stuff. And I'm really excited that we got Drew Baker back in the studio. Thanks for coming, Drew.
Thank you for having me, AJ.
And I think people know Drew. He's the owner of Tempus Charcuterie. He was the winner of MasterChef 2010. Does lots of pop-ups, supper clubs, just generally foodie legend, doing all sorts of cool stuff.
Well, keeping busy, but always lovely to be back.
We've got another party for you today, Drew.
No argument from me there.
Producer Georgie has organised a lovely party for us. So we've got Ian Beattie, who is the founder of the Zingy Berry Bakery. Welcome, Ian.
Hello.
Can you tell me a little bit about Zingy Berry Bakery?
We make cookies and crackers, essentially.
Oh, delicious. Cannot wait. And we've also got Abby Franklin from the Green Kitchen. Welcome, Abby.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Can you tell me what the Green Kitchen is?
The Green Kitchen is a 100% plant-based kitchen and bakery. We make desserts and different savoury stuff with East Asian and Chinese influence.
Oh, okay. Awesome. We're going to start with you, I think, because you have brought all this beautiful food into the studio and some of it's hot. So I think we better crack on with the hot stuff and eat it while it's good.
Yeah,
Can you tell us where you want us to start and, your influences and why you came to set up the Green Kitchen?
Sure. So, today I've brought some pasta dishes. So maybe we can start with those. I founded the Green Kitchen while I was living in Shanghai. I was there for just over 6 years. And yeah, I always enjoyed cooking and baking. Pretty much as soon as I got there, I decided I wanted to do something food related. So I started making different cakes and like British desserts and selling them at markets. And then it just kind of grew from there. I moved on to Savoury, and obviously it was all vegan food. So it just kind of organically turned into, the Green Kitchen.
What took you to Shanghai?
So I studied Chinese at university. I did Chinese studies. And
of course.
Randomly. And then after I graduated, I moved to Shanghai for an internship. It was originally supposed to be just for 3 months and then just ended up loving it there. So decided to stay. And then, 6 years later, decided to come back to England.
Fantastic. We're just tasting, you can probably hear us tucking in the background. We're tasting, is it a sort of macaroni and cheese style dish?
Essentially.
Pasta dish.
So it's a plant-based mac and cheese. And then the crumb on top is using lao gan ma, which is a Chinese chili crisp. So I mix that with panko and then toast it, and that just goes on top of it.
That topping is insane. It's so good. I'm delighted to say that plant-based food has come a long way, because historically a plant-based mac and cheese would have filled me with a bit of dread. But there's no sacrifice or compromise in terms of that sort of cheesy richness and unctuousness. But that topping with that little kick of heat and textural variance that comes from the panko, that's absolutely delicious.
Thank you.
I'd happily have had that for lunch.
I love the kind of chili burn from that.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, and it gets spicier the longer you leave it. So there are like different levels of spiciness on lao gan ma, but when you mix it with the breadcrumbs and leave it, then it just it gets spicier and spicier.
Really?
So it's got a bit of a kick to it.
It's building, actually. I'm getting more burn.
So I probably should have warned you beforehand that it's a little bit spicy.
But there's also that deeply savoury kind of flavour it's not even a flavour, that it's so umami that you're getting from that chili flake. Yeah, I'm 100% sold.
It's lovely. What's this one here?
This one is a jackfruit ragu. It's a Xinjiang jackfruit ragu. Xinjiang spice is very cumin heavy, and it's also got Sichuan peppercorn in. And traditionally it's used with lamb dishes, but instead I've replaced the lamb with jackfruit. So it's just a slow cooked ragu with gnocchi, and then it's got plant-based parmesan cream on top as well.
Fantastic. Jackfruit doesn't have... does it have a very distinctive flavour?
It doesn't have any flavour at all, really. I think that's the great thing about jackfruit, is that it kind of takes on whatever flavour you cook it with. Yeah. So it's really good for slow-cooked things like ragus, because it just absorbs all of the flavour.
That's the texture, isn't it? That sort of fibre texture that you get from it that mimics, not mimics, but not dissimilar to things like a pulled pork or a braised shoulder of lamb.
Yeah, exactly. So anything like pulled pork or like that you would want it to be kind of shredded, jackfruit's really good for that.
There's the brand, isn't there, Biff's, that make a sort of chicken wing type thing from jackfruit. And again, it's got that lovely kind of fibrous texture to it and bite.
Mm-hmm.
This is really brilliant. So whereabouts are you based? You're London based?
London, yeah. So I moved to London beginning of December. I'm in a little container in Bethnal Green. So it's just like a dark kitchen at the moment.
And how does it work in terms of delivery? Are people like on kind of subscription models, or are you selling, supplying local delis and shops, or how do people get hold of it?
I'm figuring it out at the moment. I'm just trying to get out there as much as I can. At the moment, it's on Deliveroo and Uber Eats. So if you're
a good start
in the
then.
area- yeah, exactly.
Not just figuring it out. You're on Deliveroo and Uber
It's
Eats.
a good start.
Well, yeah, I've got the first step, and I thought that was probably a good way to get my name out there a bit, because obviously people see it on the app, and then hopefully do some markets as well and actually like get out there, because that's a more enjoyable part of it, I think, is when you like have your customers face to face and you can actually be out there interacting with people. So that's the next step, hopefully.
This is lovely, isn't it? It's really authentic, sort of almost like a bolognese style ragu sauce, isn't it? But obviously
All of the richness. I'm genuinely not missing the animal protein element to it, which historically that's what I think people would find, that it lacked either that richness or something. But I'd have probably got quite a way through that, and then some part of my brain would have registered that there wasn't animal protein, but not from a lack of flavour or texture or.
and definitely not for me from the meat element at all, or
No.
the meat substitute element. That is, I think, really very authentic.
Very meaty.
Great.
Yes,
Very
very
meaty.
meaty, isn't it?
I like that you've used the word authentic, because the mac and cheese, because it's got that Chinese twist. So in terms of authenticity, but then what is authenticity, right, anymore? But
Well,
I
yeah.
think that genuinely enhances it. Quite often, classics are classics, but I now think that topping it with that spiced crumb should become a de
It
facto
should become
setting
a
for mac
thing.
and cheese.
That's a new classic now.
Yeah, the modern classic. Everything makes sense, and I love that there is that influence that's come from spending time in Shanghai, and there's a dish has evolved, and I think you can see that it wasn't that you've just decided to throw something different on there. There is a narrative that makes sense as part of the development of the product,
Yeah, I think
which
it's,
I find
think it's
intriguing.
fab.
Yeah.
And I think, for people who presumably in the evening this is a kind of takeaway alternative, it's, I'm imagining, reasonably healthy comparative to pizzas and burgers, and it's being delivered to you at home, and really good quality vegan food delivered to home.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted it to be kind of elevated from a takeaway. So I wanted it, it's not the healthiest, because obviously it still has like plant-based cream and like plant-based butter
Yeah,
and stuff,
sure.
but I really wanted it to be nutritious. And I try and use whole food as much as possible rather than like more processed plant-based meats. So yeah, it does have the healthy factor, I would say.
Yeah, you're right. It's the unprocessed element and the nutritious. That's a much better word than healthy. That's really what I
Yeah.
meant by that. It sort of feels like really good home cooking, something that's hearty and is bringing value to you. Oh, it's lovely. And you've got pots of nuts here.
Yeah, so this is a kind of classic Chinese drinking snack. It's deep fried broad beans.
Oh, okay, not
or
nuts.
Fava beans, no. So they're, beans, and then they're dried and then deep fried. It's got some different spices on it. It's got garlic powder, salt, 5-spice powder. Yeah, quite crunchy.
Just feels more virtuous than having a packet of crisps as you're having a few drinks.
Yeah.
It's a perfect drinking accompaniment. It's salty, it's textured, it's
But getting your protein in there as well. With the
And it's got
beans.
protein, hasn't it, of
Yeah.
course, which is great. I think it's really fascinating. What a cool concept. So you're going to look to do kind of street food or, markets, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, something that people can come and pick up and eat while they're walking around. Like, I want to keep it very casual, I think, but still have that kind of elevated and something a bit unique about it too.
And are these some of your best-selling dishes? I mean, how big is the range that you offer?
It's fairly small at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of started from scratch and developed the menu when I moved into the kitchen. And I'm still working out what sells best and what people are interested in. I think especially with delivery, people aren't always wanting to be too adventurous, because you want to order something that you're going to like. So sometimes, having lao gama on top of it, it might put people off a little bit, or they might not want to try it. So I'm just trying to figure out what people want to order while still keeping that unique element.
Yeah, I like that. It's almost not giving people too much information, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just got a twist.
Well, exactly. So this hummus here, it's made using, instead of tahini, it's got Chinese sesame paste in it. And I started that just because I couldn't get hold of tahini very easily in Shanghai. So I decided to try it with the Chinese sesame paste, which is a lot darker. And it ended up being really tasty. But I don't put it on the menu as having
just have it
Chinese
on as
sesame.
hummus.
Yeah, it's just hummus. And then I think people are maybe more willing to try it.
I love it. And there's mushrooms on the top of it. And
Yeah. And balsamic glaze. And
is that what it
chickpeas.
is?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. There's so much flavour going on there.
There's so much going on.
Wow, I love it. Really, really cool. What a great concept. So anyone across London can order this on Deliveroo, or is it certain areas?
I think at the moment it's East London. I'm not exactly sure how Deliveroo figures out the range, but yeah, seems to be East London, and then hopefully it will expand the longer I've been on the app. But
Brilliant.
East
Well,
London.
look out for the Green Kitchen then. And do you have a
Yeah.
website that people can go to?
I do. It's the greenkitchenvegan.com, and I've also got Instagram as well. And you can order through the website. So I'm working on the shop at the minute, and also custom orders through email. So it doesn't just have to be through Deliveroo or in East London.
So people can order if they're not limited to that kind of postcode.
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
area.
exactly. I do catering as well. So yeah, if anyone is interested, in London, then they can send me an email or visit the website.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really cool. What a brilliant business. And Ian, Beatty, like everyone, personally, I live in Kent, so I know Zingberry Bakery and your crackers
Good.
very well. They're everywhere. It is the go-to cracker.
Well, it's the best Kentish cracker there is.
Certainly is. Certainly is. Tell me about the business. When did you set it up?
Well, we started off in a pop-up in Canterbury, as our name suggests, Singyberry, the root of ginger in Latin and Greek. So we started making gingerbread.
Oh, I did not know that.
And the problem was, a bit like Marmite, lots of people like gingerbread, but lots of people don't. So we realised we started selling cookies as well, and they just took off.
Yeah, so you have all the kind of chocolate chip cookies,
Yep.
don't you? Big, chunky,
Goji berry,
yeah,
Milk
goji
chocolate,
berry
yeah.
with milk chocolate, white chocolate.
white chocolate, yeah, pecan and maple.
And where do you source the ingredients?
Locally, a company in St Peter's, strangely enough.
Oh, really?
Yes.
In Broadstairs,
In
and
Broadstairs,
on
yeah.
the Isle of Thanet.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And you have like a factory, do you,
Yeah, industrial unit in Herne Bay.
in Herne Bay? Fab. And everything's made from scratch, from handmade?
Literally everything's, even the hazelnuts in the apple and hazel. The apples dried by hand, but in a dryer, and the hazelnuts are roasted.
Brilliant.
So that's this one, is it? This is the
Yes.
apple and hazelnut cookie. Should I offer that around?
Oh, good idea.
Thank you.
So how many years ago was that market in Canterbury where
One
you
of those.
started?
Probably 2015.
Thank you. Okay. So about 8 years.
Yeah.
Fantastic. How brilliant. And what was it? What were you doing before?
Well, strange enough, I was a lecturer at Kent Uni, an associate lecturer,
Really? What were you teaching?
police law.
Why?
Because it was the best subject. When I was an undergraduate, I got a distinction. And and I was just interested in criminal justice.
Are you a lawyer by training then?
No, just an academic lawyer.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, obviously, it's a logical answer and an obvious one, but how the step from police law to making delicious cookies
I
and
was-
outstanding crackers?
I was on a charity bike ride in France and fell off my bike. And with hindsight, I might have had a mini stroke,
Oh, wow.
but I couldn't walk. So I spent 6 months, a year recuperating. But at the same time, my wife launched the gingerbread company. And it
Wow.
kind of, so then obviously we started making cookies, dropped off to McNade's.
Yes, yeah.
1 December, sold well there, and then the buyer said to me, "Oh, do you do crackers?" And crackers were my passion. I'd even tried to make them myself.
Love it.
Anyway, but my wife, she perfected it in one hit.
Really?
Yeah, and
It's not an easy thing to get right because
No.
you've got the right amount of texture. It's got to have that structural integrity, but not be too hard.
A good snap.
A good snap, but not too much.
Yeah.
And it has to be enough to be interesting, but not to overtake whatever it is you're putting on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually quite a difficult art,
Really
I
difficult.
imagine.
So hats off. And what's the one that we've got here then, Ian? I see that we've got.
So what are these crackers here that we're about to taste? How are they made? They've got sesame seed in them?
Sesame seeds, yes. They're wheat-free,
Yeah.
oat-based, with cracked pepper and sea salt.
Delicious.
Simple but delicious.
Well, that's the thing. They have to have...
And non-claggy.
Yeah, which is that sort of build up and you kind of go off them. But it's the perfect cracker, really. You want enough interest or inherent flavour, intrinsic, inherent. But that would be delicious with the cheeses that we spoke about earlier, or...
Yeah, there's good pepper, salt. It's sort of with a nice umami, oaty... Yeah, lovely.
So did you say you make everyone by hand?
Yeah, they're rolled on a roller, on a,
Really?
is it pastry sheeter?
Yeah.
And then they're cut out by hand.
Wow. Impressive.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how many people have you got working in your factory?
5. All family members as well.
And you sell across all of Kent. Do you sell further afield?
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
We've got outposts in Scotland,
Really?
the Midlands, Norfolk.
Is this predominantly through fine food retailers rather than supermarkets or?
No, it's social media. People contact us. They see us on. I
Really?
mean, just before Christmas, I think a small company in Manchester contacted us, and and we wanted to obviously have our flag in Manchester, as it were.
I mean, the packaging looks great. It would look great on any shelf, and it's got one of those... You know, you want the product to be fantastic, which it is. And I think, that crackers especially, it wasn't dissimilar to Tonic. It was just one brand predominantly, and then there was a...
Was it a Cars water biscuit?
Yeah, well, it was... And now there's a... you've had the disruptor in Tonic and in mixers, and I think there's no reason why it shouldn't happen in another field, because I think these are delicious. They're... they look appealing, they look natural, they look kind of authentic. I know I've only tried one variety, but I also know where the samples are, and I'll be trying the rest before I disappear. But I'll keep an eye out for them, and I think that's the beauty about something like that. It doesn't have to be in the fridge. You can go online and order them. I guess people can order from you direct.
Yeah,
or?
order online on our website shop. Yes.
And they look rustic enough that you could maybe even get away with saying that you made them, but not enough.
I don't think you would.
No, I don't. I wouldn't.
They're too good for that.
No, they're lovely. And I like that they're all slightly different, and they really look like they have been made by hand. It's fantastic.
But you also get that flavour variance, from the edges where it's slightly thinner. That's going to cook a bit more, so you're going to get that slightly more toasty effect on the outside, and you get that variance as opposed to that homogeneous flavour throughout. And I think that's something you really want. You want that variety within the cracker. I mean, people would think, what is he talking about? It's a cracker. But actually, it's true. I do think you need to think of it on all the sort of levels.
Yeah.
Just as much as we were talking earlier with that mac and cheese. As delicious as mac and cheese is, at some point it's just one texture. Yeah. And the addition of the crumb and this and the other bits gives it that interest and that...
elevates it, doesn't it?
Completely. It gives you that variance that takes it away from being something that's delicious, but halfway through you think, I need a break, or I need something else texturally, but it's got all of that there.
Yeah, it's got the variation. And it's nice, it's like a blank canvas that you can just add different things to it, and just like different toppings, different elements to it.
Yeah.
Do you know, I just realised, Abby, we didn't try your chocolate cake.
Yeah, this is a double chocolate fudge cake. It's got a whipped chocolate ganache on it as well.
Fab.
Got
to try that. So how did you make that then? Have you got do you need to use, what do you use for your sort of egg substitute and things like that?
So in things like chocolate cake, you don't really need to have an egg substitute because it's supposed to be quite dense, and they're often oil based anyway. In other cakes, I tend to use aquafaba. Whoever discovered that chickpea water, I know, like someone must have just seen it one day and thought that looks like it would be a great egg white. And it's amazing. I use it in basically anything that needs egg whites. You can use aquafaba as a substitute.
And aquafaba is the water from a can of chickpeas.
I think it can be any bean. I think chickpeas work the best. But
Oh,
yeah.
but any bean. That's interesting. It's almost, is
apparently.
it like the protein has leached out into the water and it gives it a sort of slightly different way that it works?
Well, I think if you ever boil chickpeas, you get that foam that forms on the top, which is quite structured. I'm wondering if somebody looked at that and went, "Oh, that's kind of like an egg white," and took it from there.
Yeah, and it's got that kind of gelatinous texture to it as well,
Right.
which
Yeah,
is similar to an egg white. So yeah, it must be something to do with the structure of it. Works in
It's
the same
clever.
way. Yeah, it's amazing.
I remember the
Making
first
stuff.
time I made a vegan meringue and just
Yeah.
stood there going, I did not expect that to work.
I know you kind of don't expect that it's going to work, and then when it does, it's amazing. So yeah,
It's incredible. And the
That's awesome.
icing there is so
That's just a water ganache, just
creamy.
it's coconut milk based.
Okay,
So
I was
it's
gonna say it's creamy.
yeah, it's dark chocolate, coconut milk, and then vegan butter as well, and then just made like a regular ganache.
It really, good quality chocolate as well. You
I
can,
think that's important. Yeah, it's got to be the good stuff.
So there's a real kind of nostalgic kick to kind of chocolate fudge cakes from when you were
Yeah.
little, like in a really good way. But sometimes you can have them which leave you that greasy kind of feel. There's none of that. It hasn't got that, but it's still rich and decadent
and spongy. Like there's a really
Delicious.
lovely sponge feel to that, which is absolutely amazing.
yeah. I think everything we've been really spoiled actually. We've had everything's been actually delicious.
Yeah, we have. I know. We shouldn't have had lunch today. What an incredible spread. And Ian, you brought in these beautiful things. How many different products have you got in your range?
4 crackers presently, although we've developed a 5th, which is beetroot and thyme. We've got to get the food nutritional sorted out,
Sure, yeah.
the analysis done, and 7 different types of cookie.
Brilliant.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I saw, haven't you won loads of Great Taste Awards and things like that?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, 25 Great Taste Awards
25
Wow.
over the last 7 years or something, 8 years.
since 2017.
Gosh. Right.
A Quality Food Award
Yes,
and 3 Great British Food Awards. So,
absolutely fantastic. What do you think it is that's the kind of winning factor that's meant that you've produced so many award-winning crackers?
my wife,
Okay.
she says she has no sense of smell, but her sense of taste is incredible.
But that's amazing. If she's got no sense,
How?
the flavour comes. What is it like? 60% of flavour
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
from
it comes
smell.
from-
80 we were
I mean,
taught
my-
recently.
Or 80. My brother has no sense of smell, but he's also awful at cooking or anything flavour related. So that's what you'd expect. But there's delicacy and there's nuance and there's stuff you would not expect to come from somebody. Has she never had a sense of smell, or did she
Oh, no,
lose
it's
it?
not- it's just not great.
Just not great.
Okay.
Okay.
No, so for
That makes
example,
sense.
a cider producer gave us a bottle of a new cider, and she said, "Wow, it's amazing! It tastes almost like champagne," and it won 6 months later, a Great Taste Award.
Wow.
Okay,
How
so clearly got a
incredible.
great palate. But I think, a good product has to come from somebody with a great palate. I don't believe that somebody who hasn't got a great palate can produce really good food or can cook really good food. So I think that is a starting point. And what you can see across the board here is that there's a genuine interest and love in what's being done. It's apparent with the crackers and with the 2 or 3 dishes we've tried. It's evident that there's people who care deeply about what they do
Yeah.
and have thought a lot about it, and that comes across immediately, which I think is from a consumer's perspective, you want that because you feel like you're special.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's delicious stuff, but it does feel very considered and very carefully put together and executed.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, particularly, Abby, I love that you've just found this gap in the market and spotted something that almost seems so obvious, but actually isn't obvious, and somebody isn't doing it, presumably. Not well and
Yeah,
not in
I
the
mean,
same way
not-
that you're doing it.
Not that I've seen. I mean, obviously the ingredients that I'm using, the sauces, they're not new. They're super popular in China. People have been using them for years. I guess the difference is that I'm making Western food, Western dishes, and then using Chinese ingredients to add something to them. That might be the unique aspect of it.
Love it.
But yeah, I haven't seen anyone doing it in the UK so far. So
I think you're going to have to write a cookbook at some point.
But this
I
has
would
definitely
love
got
to.
cookbook written
It's
all
got,
over
I
it.
would buy that cookbook. Like,
Yeah.
how do I elevate some of these more ordinary, not ordinary, but you know what I mean, like comfort dishes, I suppose. And how do I elevate them and turn them into something really exciting and different?
Yeah, condiments is definitely the answer.
Yeah. We
That's
had
been the word of the day.
It has been. We had Guy Tulbo from Tracklements in earlier. He's the condiment king.
But it's interesting when you get two cuisines kind of come together and something's flash. Like if you look in LA, that kind of taco culture, which had that Korean vibe, came into it, and then that became a thing. Like, you know, LA Korean Mexican tacos, and that as a cuisine has become a thing. You know, this could be the start of another one. But there'll always be some purist tutting and whinging. But you know, food is always, the thing about food is it's always developed and it's always come from travel. So you talk about the spice route, that literally served to upset the purists, if you think about it, because India didn't have chilies until the 1500s, until the Portuguese brought them. So for us to imagine Indian cuisine without chilies, it's unimaginable.
Yeah.
So this is just, I think, as the world becomes smaller in terms of travel, it's just the logical progression is that those influences blend and merge into something creative, and you create something entirely different. I think there is a real cohesion through all the dishes we've tried. So there is its own style, as opposed to just wildly eclectic dishes. There is a cohesion, I think, to that, which I think means that there's a thought process that clearly works.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I've really noticed this sort of fusion of different cultural flavours working very well. There's a restaurant, isn't there, down near Sandwich, have you ever been to the Toll Bridge?
No.
Which is Korean mixed with Texan barbecue, and the two just go beautifully together. So you get these wonderful smoked meats served with the kimchi or something, and they're absolutely delicious.
Yeah, I think when you get it right, food has always benefited from inspiration and influences from other places, and this is just an extension of that. Whether it was, I don't know, Henry VIII using cinnamon and mace, and he wouldn't have used it in the kitchen, but being used in his kitchens was at the time kind of unheard of. So I think it's always going to progress, and this is just another really well thought out and executed example of that.
And I suppose as food communicators, or in your case, like creators of different dishes, it's just about nodding the head, isn't it, to the heritage of different influences and where they've come from and why you've used them. And that's, I think it's supposed to evolve like this. We are supposed to evolve. We're creatures who enjoy changing and seeing new things and looking for new exciting flavours and combinations.
Yeah. And more often than not, it's wrong. I mean, well, not wrong, but it doesn't work very well. So that more sort of confusion than fusion. But every so often when it hits it in the sort of sweet spot, and this is an example of that, it really works. I think we've been really spoilt. We've had the most delicious crackers and cookies. We've had the most wonderful kind of comfort / soul food, but with little tweaks and inspirations from other places. And all in all, I wish it wasn't a half-hour episode, and I wish it was an hour, and we could have just sat here picking at the rest and eating it.
I know, me too. I mean, I can't believe we're already at the end of the show. But thank you so much to Abby from the Green Kitchen for joining us today. Thank you
very much.
And thank you to Ian Beattie from Zingy Berry Bakery. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
You've been listening to Food Rebels, which is available on radio stations around the UK. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Audible. Please remember to subscribe and rate us, follow and all that kind of stuff. And we will see you next time. So in the meantime, make sure you taste the rebellion.